Welcome to the BumbleKast. I'm your host, Ian Flynn, the Bumble King, and joining me as always is the man who questions everything, Kyle, JCRB Krause.
I question everything, and you should too. It's a healthy thing to question everything, especially Ian. Question Ian. Give him lots of questions. We have a lot of questions, actually.
We have too many questions. That's our problem.
Yeah, that's something that's kind of happened recently, is that we've had like a question explosion, as it were, and it's become a bit of a cluster to keep track of. So bear with us as we try and sort things out. Some very nice patrons have been helping to collect and maybe kind of organize the questions that have been sent just this year, and it's been wild. So, but thank you to them for helping out. I appreciate that. It's just been one of those things, like another thing piled on top of 2020. It's like, geez, I want to have so many freaking questions to ask Ian. Why do you guys have so many questions for Ian? It's weird.
Yeah, but it ensures we have show content, so thank you.
That is actually very true, yes. So, yes, thank you. So, Ian, what's been going on in your neck of the woods? You got another announcement to make this week.
I do. Last time we talked about Drogoon Outlaw, a manga-styled spinoff to Drogoon, which has been entered into the Shonen Jump 100th anniversary contest. In addition to that, I have The 9 Lives of Claus McGee, drawn by Jonathan Griffiths. You can find both of those at medibang.com/u/Ian Flynn BKC. 9 Lives is a project that John and I have been working on for a while. It's gone through many permutations as we try to find out the right way to do it. And with the timeline of the contest, kind of put a gun to our head and was like, hey, let's stop overthinking it and just do it. So we did it. And I think it turned out spectacularly well, particularly because John is a incredible artistic tour de force. I've wanted to work with him for a long time, and I'm glad we finally got this done. It's he has such comedic timing with the way he does his art, and there's like one or two instances where he actually put in little Easter eggs for another project that we had kind of tinkered with but never finished. And I'm like, did you really do that? He's like, yeah, I didn't know if you would notice. I'm like, are you kidding, dude? So I'm super happy with how it turned out. You can read them both for free. And hopefully we will get some attention with it. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, Drogoon Outlaw and 9 Lives of Claus McGee are on Medibang for free, so please enjoy.
Check them out, yes. See, I knew about Drogoon Outlaw. I had no idea about 9 Lives of Claus McGee. You'd never mentioned anything about having another comic project in the works to me. So this is a surprise, and I'm like, holy crap, this is cool. So yeah, definitely go check out both of those.
Claus actually started off as a TV pitch. I was going to try to put that together.
Uh-huh. And
then we were kind of going back and forth on, do we want to make it like a serial comic? Do we want to make it straight to trade? How do we want to even approach it? The premise of it got kind of heavily revised for this version. And the long and short of it is it focuses on this cat named Claus McGee and his 9 lives. And it poses the question of, are these all just fanciful stories that he's telling his grandson? Are they actual lives that he has led? Or is this all the delusions of an old man? And it's all done in a very lighthearted, comedic, fantasy adventure vibe. It's very easy reading and lots of fun. So, I don't know. It's something that I've wanted to do for a while, and it's coming together rather well. We might be able to do more with it later on, but we'll get to that later.
Nice. Very nice. All right. Well, without any further ado, I think it's time to break into the Q&A because we have quite a few. I think we're playing 20 questions with you today, Ian.
Oh, boy.
So, before we get into the Q&A proper, though, here are the rules. You can ask your questions over at email at BumbleKast@yahoo.com. You can hit us up on Twitter at BumbleKast. You can send us 2 coffees over at KoFi. That's ko-fi.com/BumbleKast. In the YouTube comments of any of the videos, any video, yes, that is the case, or via Patreon comments, messages, or in the Ask Q&A channel on Discord. Keep in mind that if your question's been answered pretty recently, is already on the FAQ over at bumbleking.com, or is about past Sonic plans, mostly related to Archie, we likely won't answer it. If your question hasn't been answered in a while, check those places. First up, gonna get to the questions from KoFi. We got one from TVGuru. In a previous BumbleKast, you said you were trying to get a moment with Shadow approved when asked about his actions during the Zombot arc. Did you manage to get it in? If not, what would it have been?
It more or less made it in. It'll be in Sonic number 31. And I'm not surprised with the changes that I had to make, but the essence of the scene is still there. It's not as poignant as I had hoped, but at this point I was just going to be happy if I got the scene in any connotation. So it's in there. It's not quite what I wanted, but it's in there.
And next up, another one from KoFi. This one is from Jonathan. Thoughts on the NSFW Sonic community as a creator? Do you disapprove/mind artists creating NSFW aged up interpretations of characters you've written? I've always been fascinated by this part of the fandom and the mixed opinions regarding it.
Oh, we're walking into dangerous territory here. So number one, in general, I don't have an issue with not safe for work stuff of any kind, whether I've worked on it or not. If that's what floats your boat, go for it. As long as you're doing it within, the appropriate circles, you're not just posting it out for anyone and everyone to see, because some folks don't want to see that. If it's within, the community's built around it and, y'all are enjoying it for yourselves, sure, knock yourselves out. Have fun. When it comes to the underaged characters, that's where I don't really... I don't want to say I don't approve, because who the hell cares what I approve of? I don't like it myself. Now, if you are taking the younger characters and aging them up because you want to see them as the next stage in their lives, going on adventures as matured and experienced individuals, that's one thing. That's cool. That's fun. It's always fun to see, the young generation moving up and picking up the torch and taking over. How many Robins have we gone through in Batman? And that's exactly it. The young Ward becomes their standalone hero. And that's cool and all. In the not safe for work connotations, I feel like that is a thinly veiled excuse. But if you're doing it in a way that, I don't know, is, I guess, respectable to the character, or is because you want to see that character evolve in a certain direction, you do you. I'm not interested in it. Just, keep it to yourself. If it's just this kind of wink and nod excuse to say, oh, they're not underage anymore, wink, wink, that is creepy and gross, and I really, really, really don't want to know about it. So just keep that to yourself. Don't be like that guy who showed up at my very first convention with his portfolio and had a bunch of Tiny Toon stuff that is not appropriate for Tiny Toons, who had the cast from Scooby-Doo doing things with Scooby-Doo that you should not do with Scooby-Doo. Very much Scooby-Don't. If that is your thing, okay. Zoinks! If that is your thing, you know what? I'm not going to police the internet. I'm not going to hunt you down and tattle on you to the internet police. Just, do your thing over there. And if you have like-minded folks, I'm glad you're enjoying it. Do your thing. Just don't target the younger characters. That's just weird. And, don't necessarily send it my way, because it's not my thing. I guess what I'm trying to boil down is to, I'm not going to sit here and judge anybody for what they like, because we all have our quirks.
Yeah, The thing about Sonic characters is the line gets a little blurry occasionally. Like, what characters actually are underage? Because technically, almost all of them are.
Yeah, I mean, the one that's like probably the biggest potential red flag. I mean, Tails and Cream are very clearly too young.
Yes.
Don't go there. Ew. I understand the desire to see them grow up and become heroes in their own right. That's completely different. We're not talking about progression of character. We're talking about dirty stuff. But then you have Amy, who is canonically 12, which is, no, you don't go there. But she isn't designed to look like any 12-year-old I've seen. She doesn't act like a 12-year-old.
No.
Most of them don't act like their age anyway. And that starts to get into the debate of, well, what is the character in terms of number and what is it in terms of the maturity? And that just gets into a thorny debate that I really don't want to get into when it comes to dirty animal pictures. So, like I said, if that's what floats your boat, sail off into that sunset and, avast, have a good time. Just, that's your course. I'm going to stay here on dry land and do something else.
Alrighty. Up next, we got one from Scruffymatt. Good evening, Ian. Oh, mighty breaker of hearts and wrencher of guts.
It's very hard to fit a wrench into guts, I gotta say.
Yeah, but you make it work. In your time working on the Sonic comics, you've written some pretty devastating moments. The roboticization and blam blam blamming of Sally. The metal virus taking down Cream. The, spoiler alert, by the way, the truly heartbreaking death of Tommy Nope, couldn't say that with a straight face. So, Ian, I've got to ask, what do you think is the saddest, most devastating, heartbreaking moment you've written to date, whether it be for Sonic or one of the other various projects? Is there one in particular that the fans got most upset about, and do you agree with that one being the saddest? What about me? Me, as in Kyle. Does any particular moment stick out to me? I don't know. I'll get back to you on that. Go ahead, Ian.
It's funny you say Tommy Turtle because everyone hated Tommy so much. So I made sure to kill him very clearly. He is dead as dead can be. And everyone thought the moment was so poignant and redeemed the character so much that they wanted us to bring him back. It's like, no, wait, you redeemed him. Maybe he should just get a third chance. It's like, no, we learned our lesson. He came back from death once. That turtle is dead. He's very dead. Saddest moments, I guess I would have to go by what got me a little misty-eyed when I was writing it. And I figured, if I'm reacting to this knowing what's happening, sure to goodness, I'm going to get someone even worse. In the old Archie days, I think it would be when Sonic finds Nicole after Sally has been roboticized. Because what happened to Sally was horrible and tragic. That was the point. But Nicole was kind of right there to watch it happen and could do nothing. Sonic was busy fighting, but Nicole has this moment of absolute devastation that is made even more poignant by the very robotic way she's been speaking, despite how much she has grown as an individual. And that, I thought, was just the twist of the night. That was really bad. The one that caught me by surprise was Antoine's sacrifice. Now, I knew folks were going to be upset. That was the point. But the amount of lamentation we received was unexpected. We thought it was going to be a shocking moment, and we would move on from that to the bigger thing, which was Sally. But Antoine was so devastating for people that it actually affected how we handled everything after that. So there we go. In the current run, pretty much any moment with Cream is horrible because she is innocent and pure that anything bad happening to her is automatically bad. You know, more than just your usual bad. We're talking bien fou, bad. And if you got that reference, hey. But I think the one that gets me the most and the one that I was building towards for the entire arc pretty much was Tangle, because she knows she's infected and she has the plan around it. And you have that ticking clock as the infection goes up her extended tail and she's fighting alone. to protect everyone else. And she knows it's coming, and she's still putting on a brave face. And then she loses. There is no happy ending. There is no smart way to get around it. She knows she's going to lose, and she just holds out until she loses. And that's just, it got me at the time. And I saw a lot of people on Twitter going, how could you? It's like, yes, feed me your tears.
Yeah, I do remember during Sally's sacrifice and Nicole's reaction to it, and it was, yeah, that's definitely a big moment for me that sticks out. That's my moment for sure. I'm still behind on IDW, so it's not my fault the issues don't conveniently come mailed to my house anymore. They used to. They don't. They don't just show up automatically each month anymore. It makes me sad. I have to actually go get them. And it's like, come on. Give me some mail subscriptions, IDW. Please. Anyway. Up next, we got one from Ink Pants. Serious question time. Uh-oh. We just had a very serious question. I was wondering if you could maybe share some of the sentiments or stories that might have been collectively experienced or expressed by the team when you all got word that Archie Sonic was to close up shop. I'm not talking politics here. I'm more interested in the personal connections you all shared throughout the many years working on the comic. I imagine saying goodbye to the Archie cast was just as hard for the writers and artists as it was for the readers, maybe even more so.
I honestly can't speak to anybody else. We got the word right around Christmas time. And, we couldn't really say anything until there was an official announcement publicly. So there was that degree of silence on our end. To me, it was panic-inducing because it was my career. That's what paid the bills. And I didn't have anything else lined up. So how am I going to support my family with nothing? And then on the creative end, of course, I think the reboot hurt worse just because we were going somewhere with it. It was the continuity I had grown up with. I had great plans for it, and it was all yanked away. With the second loss, I guess there had been like enough scar tissue built up that it almost felt ironically funny. It's like, oh, of course, we finally get our feet under us again and we're going in a new direction, and I've come to really understand and have plans for this one. Oh, of course it's gone again. Why should I get attached to it? Of course all that is good must be gone. So it hurt. It did hurt, but for me personally, the reboot hurt worse just because it was the first blow, I guess. Everybody else, I really can't say as to their personal reactions. We never really got a chance to talk about it because it happened, and it was, it's not like we're all in an office. It's not like we are even neighbors. We're all over the continent. And with that loss of our main gig, the focus became on finding other work. I know I tried to retweet Patreons and portfolios of the folks I'd worked with, try to get some attention their way, whether it's through fans or other editors who might just happen to be lurking on my timeline. I don't know, but when IDW booted up, I was like, hey, I've got a list of people that know the models and know how to get it on time and know what Sega likes and doesn't like. Just ask me. I will hand out names. And then it was most of the crew just happened to be picked up again, which was nice. I didn't really have a huge direct hand in it, but I'm happy for them that it happened. But have I answered the question? I think I've just gone on a tangent.
I think you pretty much have. Yeah, I think you have.
Okay. The end.
Yes. I remember you told me the news that the comic was ending, and I'm like, what? What do, Ian? What do?
Now, I'm dumb. I completely forgot about this aspect of it. I know Aaliyah was especially put out because
Yeah.
We were just about to get the first trade with her name on it.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, so many things that she had contributed to, her name wasn't on the cover for whatever reason. And her first major arc was going to come up, and finally she would have cover credit to her name, acknowledgement of what she had contributed, and boop, not happening.
Yeah, that was hard. I was like, oh, seriously, this this person who has contributed so much to both, especially to the reboot, and nothing. It's like, oh, dang it. And you guys, I know you guys were excited about what was coming. You guys had set up a lot of new stuff. You were still at the point in the book where you were just kind of setting up the new characters in different parts of the world. You hadn't even really gotten to a point where, like, you could go into full on stories with everything going, with everybody involved and things like that. You guys were still doing a lot of world. Yeah, you guys were still doing a lot of the world building, and then that world just boop, gone. Oh, man. And then, of course, I was aware of sort of the personal issues of it, I suppose, because, you know, I actually was talking to you while it was happening, and it was definitely a bit of a scary time for sure. So, but I'm really glad you were able to bounce back and that IDW picked up you and pretty much everybody else who also worked on the book. So that's smart.
And again, I feel like I need to bring this up every time we hit this topic. It's a big thank you to the fans.
Yeah.
Because the editor at the time, Joe Edkin, told me to my face, the biggest question they got was, would I be returning? And then it was, will the Freedom Fighters be back? The fact that I ranked higher than the Freedom Fighters is mind-boggling. So thank you to everyone who supported me. I didn't even know! So it's a good feeling to know that I'm liked.
Yep. So maybe the Freedom Fighters will be back one day. But
it's next on the list.
Let's keep hoping. Next up, we got one from Andrew D. I want to follow up on a question that I asked a few weeks back. When Dr. Starline was looking through the portals that he opened in the beginning of Eggman's Day Off, the artwork in the portals was lifted from previous issues by the same artist. Would you say those events were happening simultaneously, or was it a simple case of reusing art and them not being the exact same events?
I would have to look at the issue again, but the Warp Topaz doesn't open portals through time, just in space. So they would have to be happening concurrently.
Alrighty. Next one comes from Off, or AWF. How come when it comes to Sonic characters, species like insects and bats, and even some foxes can fly, but literal birds can't?
I don't know! Oh, it drives me up the wall. It makes me think of the old concept art for Jet early on, where he had big feathery wing hands that looked so cool. And he had like these Talon-styled boots that looked so cool. And it was so much better than what we got in the end, which just looks like... I mean, it's not a bad design. It's just... I'm a sucker for big feathery hand wings anyway. You know, like the Ruto out of Breath of the Wild. I really dig that general design trope. So, I don't know. I don't know.
Next up from Alex M. I really like the previews for the next issues that we're seeing. I love that we're finally getting an arc that seems to be focusing more on the girls and a more lighthearted adventure after everything in the Metal Virus saga. But my question is actually about the outfits we see the girls wearing in the previews. I'm curious, since it is rare to see them ever wear something other than their usual stuff. When you decide to change that, do you have to ask permission from Sega to do it? Even if it's just for one issue or something? And can it only be stuff that they've already wore in other official Sonic stuff, or are you allowed to come up with your own original outfits?
This particular instance, that would be a question better suited for Evan and how she tackled it. So I'm only going to speak to my general experience over the years with the books. 9 times out of 10, dressing them up in anything aside from their official garb is a no-no. Very rarely could we do something different and those would always have to get the official seal of approval. Looking back, the wedding issue in the old Archie line, I'm surprised we got away with as much as we did, but I think especially with Knuckles, but the only note we really had was that male characters don't wear pants, and that was about it. I think they were okay in general with it being tuxedo tops because it was a wedding issue. But
remember that one issue in the Arctic?
No.
When we wanted to have Amy with her snow outfit, well, everyone with snow outfits, and that was a hassle.
Yeah, did that get rejected?
Amy was eventually okay with her, I think it's the Olympics outfit.
Uh-huh.
But no one else changed.
Okay.
That's why there's that line about poking fun at Amy's the only one with a different outfit.
I don't remember that. It's been a while. Overall, it's generally off limits. And I believe Evan picked those particular outfits because they were used in official art to help possibly smooth over the approval process. But again, that's Evan's story. She's lead writer now. Those questions should go to her.
Alrighty. Next question is from T-Cos. I was quite shocked to see Blaze's empire be depicted for the first time. Given it was never shown in the games before, I didn't think it would ever be explored. How were you able to get this proved, and what was the inspiration behind the empire's look, if you had anything to do with it?
Okay, this is one of those moments where the tighter connection with Sega has borne some amazing fruit, because in the script, I said, we've never seen Blaze's Imperial Palace. We haven't seen the seat of her empire. Is there any reference art? Is there any direction you can give us? And they said yes. They actually gave us not specific drawings or anything, but specific guidelines on the level of technology and the architectural appearance and what the motifs should be in those designs. So this is pretty close to official art. Not like official, of course, because it's comics, which is just a tie-in. If the games establish anything different, that will be canon. But this is just about as close as you can get to official designs for the Imperial Palace. And that is super freaking cool. I was super excited we got that feedback. It's like, yeah, the palace should look something like this. And then Adam took it from there. And it's like, oh, cool. We finally get to see this setting that I wanted to see for so long. So, lots of hype there.
Oh, that is awesome. Very awesome. Next up, Afro Luffy X. I was very surprised you guys submitted a Drogoon one-shot to the Tezuka Manga Awards. My question is, what would you and Thomas do if you win the competition? Because one of the prizes is having your series be published in Shonen Jump, a weekly Japanese magazine. Would you cancel and reboot Drogoon for the magazine or create a new title? Note that this is a what-if scenario.
Yeah, threaten me with success. There's a lot of big ifs with that. Number one, that's if we win. And we're up against some real stiff competition. And that's just in the English language. I haven't looked at any of the others because I don't speak anything other than English. So if we were to place first or second, because third place is only an honorable mention, I don't think you even get printed. That's the first big if. Number two, all the submissions are meant to be standalone stories. So it might be that if we won, we would get that one story printed and it would be, thank you for your contribution. The end. In which case, cool, we get to be seen in Shonen frickin' Jump, but that's the end of it. In which case, that's certainly enough. That's really cool. We're done. If it wins and it gets printed in Shonen Jump and there is enough positive feedback that they want us to continue to contribute, I don't know. I guess because it would be a presumably paying gig, we would shift our focus to Outlaw, and regular Drogoon would have to go on an extended hiatus, which would be really weird that the main series has to take a backseat to the spinoff. But I mean, if we're getting printed somewhere, who are we to say no? But the announcement for that won't be till December. And I wouldn't imagine any kind of deal would be struck until next year at earliest. So we're not preparing for that scenario. That's such a distant chance. it's not really worth worrying about. It's, on our radar, of course. But right now that Outlaw is out there and, we're waiting for the contest to get into full swing, we're focusing on getting regular Dragoon up and running again. If we can do it sooner rather than later, we'll definitely do that. But right now we're looking to build up everything so that we can do a nice big return to form on Dragoon's first anniversary in November. So look forward to that.
Next question comes from Diane W. What do you imagine Shadow and Knuckles would be doing individually during the events of Sonic Unleashed?
Well, presuming that Knuckles is always on Angel Island, and that Angel Island is back on Sonic's world after the Sonic Adventure stuff, he wouldn't be affected because Unleashed happens on the human world, he said, with an ever-expanding, strained smile. Shadow, I don't know, depends on what planet he's on. Otherwise, going by his current characterization, I guess he would be going around seeking out the strongest of the Dark Gaia monsters and beating them up. Because that's so deep and engaging for his character.
Next up, we got one from Papa Dreepopolis. Okay, so Sonic Adventure, Human World, and IDW Sonic World, right? But
right.
Come the annual number 2, Big lives in the same shack as Sonic Adventure. Are you considering the Mystic Ruins Forces hub in Sonic Adventure to be part of Angel Island? Meaning that the start of the annual story is in Angel Island and that Big lives in Angel Island? Or did Big just like that shack so much, he built it twice? Especially since I noticed that Tails' workshop in IDW, while looking similar to the Adventure one, is also obviously different, since different world. It made Big Shack stand out to me more.
Going off of the game, first a little tangent. Going off of what the games have shown us, Tails seems to have multiple workshops. There was the one in Mystic Ruins, there was the one in Central City. He just seems to set up a lot of shops. And that makes a lot of sense, If he likes to tag along with Sonic and follow him on his adventures, but every now and again needs to stop and, build something or invent something, or he wants to do something on his own, maybe he doesn't want to go all the way back to that one workshop. So maybe he sets up a bunch of smaller hubs so that he's, able to potentially get in contact with Sonic wherever. I like that idea. That's kind of what I'm working under. So yeah, he has multiple workshops. As for Big, it is meant to be that it is a new structure in a Mystic Ruins-like jungle on Sonic's world. And given that his house is basically 4 sticks with a roof, that's about on par for Big. I will make a house. It has a roof. It has a bed.
It's a house. It's a very simple design. I think Big could recreate it in multiple places. Maybe it's actually his secret network of spy houses. Nobody knows.
He just decides to move to a new fishing spot, so he picks up his bed and carries it to his new house.
Exactly. That's right.
Or maybe he's just able to pick up the whole darn thing.
Maybe he is. Maybe.
Look, Froggy, it's a mobile home. Froggy, come back.
Maybe that's why Froggy keeps running away. He's tired of Big's jokes.
No, he just has the one joke. He keeps telling it.
Oh. Yeah. That would do it too. Next up, Chris A. Does Bunny's uncle Beauregard Rabbot is Rabo, isn't it? Not Rabo, not Rabbot. I have always read it as Rabbot. It wasn't until recently where apparently it's supposed to be Rabo, and I'm like, okay, sure. Okay. I will start over. Does Bunny's uncle Beauregard Rabbot exist in the post-reboot of Archie Sonic?
No, because post-reboot had to abandon everything that had any connection to pre-reboot. And Uncle Beauregard is a reference to one line of dialogue Bunny had during Mecha Madness. I took one gag line and turned an entire character out of it, and it is now off limits.
AKA issue 30-something. And you brought it back from one line of dialogue out of nowhere. Man, you're crazy, Ian. I think that's why the people love you. Most people, anyway.
Dadgummit, I even referenced Aunt Lulu May in the frickin' encyclopedia. Don't try me, man. I dug deep.
Yeah, you pulled Breezy out of mothballs. I mean, anything could happen at this point. Okay, next question comes from Jay. During Worlds Unite, how was Sonic Man able to break out of Flashman's time stopper?
He's just that fast.
He
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
He breaks out of time. That's how good he is. That's how good he is. I also like how he's called Sonic Man.
And you may be saying, that doesn't make any sense. Well, in Sonic Generations, his speed was able to restore distorted time space that was destroyed by the time eater. It don't make sense. It don't have to. Thank you, game, for giving me an out.
Perfect. And here's one from Blue Title Gamer. Outside of writing for the characters in the comics, which Sonic characters do you personally wish to see a lot more done with in future games? Stuff like their characterization and what they would be allowed to do in the stories. We all know that every Sonic character has a huge amount of potential waiting to be tapped into that isn't being done so. But what about your personal choices?
Knuckles, first and foremost. I want to see a Metroidvania Knuckles game so bad. I have design docs on my hard drive, so I could just give me a call. I can tell you what to do. Just give me this. We need more Knuckles, backing him up with the Fist of Metal Crackle. Just
yes.
Give my boy some love.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we've gone through this before, and I've gone on a similar rambling tangent. I think it'd be neat if Amy were able to take front and center on her own game. Maybe give her more of a platformer puzzler. Go back to her one outing on Sonic Adventure, where she was solving very simple puzzles to open up new pathways and such. So yeah, do that. Not necessarily speed so much as acrobatics and figuring out how to navigate the space. And I don't know, give her an animal companion. She had Birdie fluttering at her shoulder the whole time. Maybe you have recruitable Chow or something. Wisps that give her abilities to, cheese certain parts of the stage or unlock alternate paths. I mean, you could do stuff. She's a vivacious, helpful girl. Let her go out and vivaciously help people. Pretty much any character, to some degree or another, you could pick up and do something with. They could be their own genre.
Yeah.
But those two, rather than make this a 2-hour-long episode, those two immediately spring to mind as something that you could do very easily.
Yeah.
Blue Title Gamer also has a question for you.
Uh-oh.
Kyle, do you personally see a future for video game retail stores in the next 10 years? Or do you feel their time will be up before then in this digital era?
See, now this is a good question. If you'd asked me about, let's say 7-8 months ago, I'd say, yeah, probably. But with COVID and everything getting locked down, I'm just wondering how many stores are going to survive the next year, much less 10 years from now. Even like the big one in town, GameStop, has been struggling for years. And now it's just worse for them. So I think independent stores will always have a place. It also just kind of depends on where in the world you are. Like, for example, here where I'm in Phoenix, we have like 15 comic shops, which is crazy because I know a lot of people who live in cities where there are like one or none. Mm-hmm. But somehow we have like 15. And there's a few independent game stores around here as well. I want to say there's like at least 5 of them that I'm aware of.
Wow.
So they're out there, but for some reason, like some areas of the country have a bunch, some have 0. So I guess it just kind of depends on if they can weather the current ongoing lockdowns and everything, and whether they'll continue to exist. But I think for the most part, maybe in 10 years, they'll probably have switched over to carrying more stuff from the late 90s and early 2000s. Actually, we're already seeing a big jump in N64 and PS1 era stuff because as people who were kids during that era are growing up, they seem to be gravitating more towards picking up N64 and PS1 stuff because that was the games they played when they were kids. And I mean, I played those when I was a kid too, so it's not like it's just limited to them. But you know, I was like 10 going into my teenage years at about that time, and there were a lot of younger kids who were maybe like 5 or 6 years old who were just picking up video games for the first time then, and who are now adults with disposable income, and they're picking up and collecting N64 and PS1 games. So we're going to start to see that, and then maybe in 10 years you'll see it shift over to like PS2. Actually, it's already kind of starting to... The PS2 is already starting to get kind of popular, so maybe it'll be even like in 10 years you'll even start to see like 360 and PS3 pick up steam again. It seems like there will always be these generational increments that we go through of popularity, because it used to be way a long time ago. There was a lot of interest in like Atari 2600 games and stuff. That was the big collector's market, and now you can't practically give those games away. Nobody wants them anymore. But it kind of ebbs and flows, fluctuates, and goes through steps. So I think that any of them that can hold out through this lockdown will still be able to find a market in the next 10 years or so as we go through kind of nostalgic generations who want to go back to their childhood. Or maybe they are... I know some stores around me do like repairs and upgrades and mod installs for consoles and handhelds. And modding handhelds especially has become a pretty big deal these days. So I know getting like new screens installed in older handhelds and just replacing the capacitors in something like a Sega Game Gear, where they are known to die very, very brutal deaths, and then leak capacitor fluid all over your motherboard and really destroy them if you don't get them replaced immediately. Things like that, I think, will keep some of the more niche specialty shops open for sure. So I don't know. That's just my thoughts on it. But yeah, I think it might have been it was a little bit more of a rosier outlook 8 months ago. But now I'm a bit concerned that a lot of these independent mom and pop shops are definitely already, actually a lot of them are already starting to go under, but I don't know. It just kind of depends. So, and we got one last question from Valri. Can I have $1 billion?
If I had $1 billion to give away, you absolutely could.
You can have $1 billion, but you don't. So there you go. Speaking of Valri, actually, he's the subject of our patron spotlight this week.
Absolutely. Valri is a landscape painter and sci-fi artist. You can find them on Twitter at BlackFox909, on Instagram at Valri, VLRI 909, on twitch.tv/Enoli909, ENOLI 909, and at artstation.com/The Black Fox. You can find their commission info on DeviantArt and Pillowfort. We will have those links in the description below the video.
Yes, if you're interested in either picking up a painting for yourself as well, you can also check out his work on those places and then contact him, and he can give you some pricing on some pre-existing paintings that you can buy from him as well. So he has a lot of landscapes, kind of like these really cool sort of alien landscape paintings that are really neat. I've compared them previously to like the backgrounds you'd see in F-Zero, just in like HD. So yeah, they're really cool like that. So definitely check those out. Sort of like these just rock formations and stuff that he does that's really cool. It looks really good. So definitely check out his stuff and perhaps get yourself a commission or buy one of his already existing paintings. All right, let's jump on over into the standard Q&A. Here's one from Mike B. So let's say Sega gave you the go-ahead to use the Freedom Fighters, and there was absolutely no legal repercussions to deal with, and Sega allowed you the creative freedom to develop them. How would you bring them back, and what direction would you take them in?
It's funny you ask this, because not that long ago, the IDW crew did this kind of impromptu jam session of just pitching ideas for fun about, what we would do with the Freedom Fighters. I used it as a space to vent, because I've got like 5 different scenarios depending on what, limitations I would be under. I just, Kyle, people keep asking for him. I keep thinking about it. Evan had her own ideas, and then editor David Marriott pitched an idea that I hadn't even considered. And I don't want to say anything because I don't want to steal his thunder. It was really neat. It was like, wow, I hadn't even considered that possibility. That could work. And for that reason, I don't want to get into any nitty-gritty details, because there are so many factors that would play into it. You say with full creative freedom, but that's never going to happen. There's going to be some kind of guidelines that we have to follow, if and when we get the ability to do so. And heaven knows we have options. But I think the big thing with bringing back the Freedom Fighters is how we approach the philosophy of bringing them in. What role would they play in the book? Because in Sad AM, they filled the role of the extended cast. Sonic didn't have a cast at that point. Sure, we had Robotnik, but Tails was so new that he was added into the show at the last second. That's why he's such a non-entity and spends most of his time in a backpack. They didn't know what to do with him because he was just that new. Amy was exclusive to Sonic CD. She didn't exist in any other media. Knuckles hadn't been invented yet as of Sad AM. That's just how freaking new it was, and there was nobody there for the extended cast. And that's the role that they served. And, the comics spun out from that. IDW takes its cue from modern Sonic, and Sonic has a huge extended cast there. He has plenty of characters to fill a lot of roles, and anyone new we've added has been filling those small niches that have been left unattended to. But with Tangle and Whisper and Starline and Mimic and all them, it's what role has not been filled that they can fill. What do they bring to the story that's not already there? With the Freedom Fighters, that's a lot of characters to bring in, and you have to look at who they were, what their traits are, what is it they individually bring to the narrative, and does the story need that right now? One of the biggest problems is Rotor, because he was supposed to be Sonic's best friend and a gadget guy. That's Tails. Now, Rotor and Tails' characterizations are worlds apart, to be sure, but the role that they fill within the narrative is pretty synonymous. So what do you do with Rotor? How does he fit into this version of the narrative? Now, you could say that their role is fan service, which is perfectly legitimate. But if they're going to be a part of the story in a long-term capacity, it needs to be more than just, here they are because you asked for it. They need to serve a purpose. They need to do more than just exist for the sake of existing. Now, Sally, as a strong, independent leader type character, you don't get a lot of those in Sonic, since everybody seems to be kind of a loose free agent in modern Sonic. She's easy enough. Bunnie is unique enough in her characterization and skill set that she's fairly easy. Nicole is kind of tied to Sally's character. That's not too hard. Antoine would need some work because, let's be honest, in Sad AM, he is the tired, cowardly Frenchman trope. And yes, the Archie books built a lot off of that, but that doesn't count anymore. That's off the table. Archie is gone. This would have to be a new direction. So what do you do with the comic relief, who is a mildly offensive stereotype? Everything would have to be taken into account. What we can use from the old cartoon, what we can't use, what needs to be updated, what's off limits from, the Archie incarnation, if all of it is, if some of it is. There's a lot to take into account. And with all of that taken into consideration, what can we use and how do we use it? So it's a very big question. It's a very in-depth question. I hope that I am at the table when those questions are answered. I mean, can't guarantee it. I don't know. But just to answer your question, there are a lot of ways to bring them back, and it would take a lot of time and consideration on how to do it right.
I've always kind of liked the idea of Rotor and Tails working together. It seems like you could make that work.
There are definitely ways to do it.
Yeah.
A lot of ways. And I could go on at length about it, but I'm going to show restraint because I don't want to undercut anything that might happen down the road.
Right.
The fact that I'm saying that, I think folks should take as encouraging. I'm not banking on it, but I am optimistic.
Alrighty. Next question is from Sonic Fan for Life 007. This question is something which has bothered me a while ago, and I thought it would be better to share it with you. You see, the problem starts with some disgraceful YouTubers who are frequently spreading more and more lies and hatred against poor IDW and even towards Ian Flynn himself in their previous videos/channels based on their personal desires. And unfortunately, many naive fans are actually believing that nonsense from them, and hence they're spreading these idiotic complaints all over the internet, just like a sick propaganda or a coronavirus pandemic. My question is, can you take down these videos from YouTube or put legal issues on them? Since, from what I've seen, these toxic rumors cause a lot of damage to IDW sales and Ian's credibility, which is absolutely illegal according to YouTube's privacy policy, which is not law, by the way. These toxic YouTubers have already done this to poor Ken Pontac and Warren Graff, and I don't want that to happen to Ian. He's an awesome writer and a great man in person, and he deserves actual support, not blind hatred. For example, one video made a baseless accusation towards IDW and Ian, which Ian had rebuked a long time ago in BumbleKast Q&A episode 113, but many people don't know that. Please do something about these goons. Personally, I spoke to many people who were influenced by these negative liars, but I only could inform a few of them, which is very sad. I wish you the best of luck, and huge success for IDW Publishing and BumbleKast. Also, I hope these hateful liars won't do anything.
That is appreciated, and kind of topical, because just earlier today, I had somebody on Twitter, like in all caps, screaming about how they hated me for, how much I clearly hated the freedom fighters, which is why I wrote so many stories about them, and why I was clearly Son-Amy, except when I put Sonic and Sally back together and killed off all the characters like, I don't know, Armand, Tommy, the League of Voyeuristic Grandpa Echidnas, maybe he's mad about Sir Connery, that deep, influential character. But all seriousness, I know exactly what you're talking about, and it is tiresome. But unfortunately, the nature of people like this is the more you try to stamp them out, the more validity it gives them. Like, I could potentially personally go onto YouTube and try to file complaints, but I don't know how that process works specifically. I don't know if they might be able to wiggle out from it under the guise of personal opinion. And frankly, if I try to, quote unquote, silence them, that's only going to validate them, not only in their eyes, but in the eyes of those who listen to them. Like, I have something to hide, that I have something I need to suppress. It is unfortunate that there are people who watch these videos or, read their stuff and say, yes, that makes perfect sense to me, and parrot it without any degree of rational or critical thought. But it kind of goes back to our not safe for work question is I can't police the internet. And the more I try to crack down on such behavior, the more time out of the day I spend that I'm not doing anything, creative or productive for me. And again, the more it makes it look like I'm trying to fight something that really isn't there. They can go through their points over and over again because that's all they seem to want to do. And I have to just sit back and let folks make their own decisions. There are numerous fans who are, even those who aren't particularly fond of me, who will say, no, look, this makes no sense, or this has clearly been debunked, or whatever. And I appreciate that, especially those who, aren't particularly big on me, who still go out of their way to say, look, this is misinformation. If you're going to be critical of the guy, at least do it right. And, fair is fair. If you don't like what I do, or you don't like a particular way I've handled things, you're free to criticize it. I'm happy that you have at least given me a fair shot. And the folks who don't want to listen, or don't want to be proven wrong, or are incapable of seeing the fallacies in those videos, you can't really convince them otherwise. They are a very loud and angry group, but they are also incredibly small.
Yeah.
So all I can really do is be the best that I can be. All you can really control is yourself when you get down to it. I try to be as open and honest as I can with folks. I try to be as approachable as possible within reasonable limits. And that's all I can really do. I can do the best I can. I try to be, good with folks, and I have to let that do the work for me, so to speak. I've seen a number of people that I don't know at all who have just, casually browsed the Twitter feed or have met me once at a show and said, no, that doesn't sound like him. And it gives them enough pause that they do their own research, or, just straight up say, no, that's not like him. Where are you getting your information from? And go from there. I appreciate the concern. I really do. And for those folks who stand up to the bullies and say, what are you doing? I appreciate that too. But at the same time, I don't want anyone to ruin their day going out of their way for my defense, or, tiring themselves out yelling at the wall. If you feel like you want to correct someone on my behalf, thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. But don't go out of your way to do it. Don't exhaust yourself, and certainly don't upset yourself doing it. Make your point, and if you turn somebody around, or at least get them to double check their sources, awesome. Good for you. That more folks need to show that line of critical thinking. If they don't want to listen, if they want to, be in that clique that says I am the devil, let them be. You can't rescue everybody. So let them have their little hate club wherever, whatever they want to do. If it makes them happy, it makes them happy. But my concern more is focusing on my role in the community and my work. And if there are people who want to be angry and nasty about it on the side, that's just the way it has to be.
In the words of a great philosopher who's also a hockey player, and this is kind of a modification of the quote, but still relevant. It is just comic. Why you have to be mad?
Or, as I believe it was Plato who said, haters gonna hate. So
yeah, I think Lincoln said.
I don't remember the exact Latin for that, but I'm sure it was something along those lines.
I think Lincoln said something very similar at one point too.
Yeah, well, we all know how it wound up for Lincoln.
Yeah, that's Ian. No.
Actually, didn't Plato get poisoned? No, that's Socrates. Never mind.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. Yeah. Either way, I've had run-ins with some members of these groups as well, and to me, it hovers between very entertaining in just how wrong they are, and very exhausting in just how wrong they are, and how unwilling they are to even entertain the idea that they might be misinformed. It's like, all right, guys, clearly you have no interest in listening. You are just here to be angry. Have fun with that. Goodbye.
I think one of the most exhausting things of it is the conspiratorial nature of it.
Yeah. Yep.
So that there is no solution. Like, if I were to announce on the show right this minute that I am retiring from the Sonic franchise forever and always, bye-bye, and nothing changed, because nothing would change, their cry would be that clearly I was lying and I'm manipulating things from the shadows. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
Yeah, you still get the blame for it, even though you're not actually doing anything.
Like, if and when the freedom fighters come back, it will have been because of polite fan response and a lot of people at a lot of different levels working towards that goal. But they will claim that they did it because they, clearly pressured us to the point where we had to give in. It's like, no, you are the ones who are actively poisoning this well. Stop it.
Yeah.
It's that insular circular logic that you just can't penetrate, and it's so tiring.
It is.
Which is why I don't engage anymore. I have better things to do.
Yeah. Yeah, muting has been great. Fantastic. Because it means they can just scream into the void and they'll never know. They'll never know. And so they can't martyr themselves, which is one of the things if you block them, it's like, oh, yeah, you blocked me. Clearly you just don't like what I have to say, but I'm right. So it gets them to double down. But if you just mute them, then they just scream into a void and it's great. It's fantastic. Have fun with that, guys. So yeah, that's been exciting. Anyway, we got a bit of a shorter question here from PC the Unicorn. In the IDW Sonic universe, does Knuckles ever ask people to look over the Master Emerald when he's away from it, similar to how he did in the Archie Sonic community? Seriously, without anyone on Angel Island, there's nothing preventing anyone from stealing the Master Emerald.
No, Sega's been very clear that Knuckles would not trust anyone to watch the Master Emerald except for himself.
Alrighty then. Well, then I guess it either has a really kickin' security system or Knuckles actually is as stupid in IDW as he is in Sonic Boom.
We're just going to stick with that's what Sega says and not going to look at all the ramifications.
All right, well, this goes back to the last question, Ian. Why do you keep blaming Sega for your decisions? Clearly, they're all your decisions. You have full control over this. Why do you keep blaming your employer? This is one of the many arguments out there, by the way. Sorry. Sega gets a lot of the blame because it's very frequently their fault. Just in case you're wondering. Next up from Liam B. Why was it, or why did you choose for it to be so, that Sonic and Sally's relationship would be patched up so quickly? I understand Sonic's journey of losing his family and then coming back to it was that he was ungrateful for his family and hesitant to move on from his days as a hero, and by losing it, he finally fulfills his duty, becomes ready to move on from being a hero, appreciates his life, and become an attentive father and husband. But what was the background or significance of their relationship being rekindled so quickly after all that time? Was there a character journey for Sally as well in that arc?
So I'm assuming this is a question about Moby's 30 years later?
Most likely, yes.
Because that's the only context where it would make sense to me.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was more of a function of a lack of space and for the fans. Because nobody was really fond of the King Shadow angle, and I don't blame them. And they wanted to see Sonic and Sally happily ever after at long last. So when doing the Moby's 30 years later stuff, my focus was on the next generation moving forward. And to that end, I figured it would just be easier to let Sonic and Sally be together without the drama and the hubbub. I mean, Sally was super shortchanged in all of that, to be sure. Why she thought, marrying King Shadow would bring enough peace, how she was during the intervening years. Her personal stake in all this was paved over a whole lot, and there just wasn't any space to do it, unfortunately. Like I said, when I did the two-parter story, it was the editor saying, okay, we're going to wrap up Moby's 25 years later. You have 22 pages in 2 stories to do it, and there's got to be an evil King Shadow. Go. So there's only so much you can do when you have 11 pages of pop. If folks want to, in their own fandom, delve deeper into that, go nuts, because we're never going to be returning to that. But there wasn't any express deeper thinking on my end that I can recall. It was just, you know what? Let's give them the happy ending. Let's just do that and move forward. It's not the most satisfying narrative, I will grant you, but I figured folks had been through so much to get to that point with the future timeline. One nice gimme wouldn't hurt anything.
And our final question comes from Noni. Is it okay to make fan art for Dragoon, like stickers and prints, to sell at artists' alleys once they reopen conventions, or at least give them out as freebies, as long as there's a link to the site or a QR code attached?
So I touched base with Adam on this to make sure we were on the same page. And short answer is, yes, it's okay. Long answer, if you're doing like artist alley stuff and like that, please do put a link back to us just so folks know what they're getting. But go nuts. Have fun with it. We wish you the best of luck. And this is assuming you're producing stuff like 100 units at most. You know, artist alley, small time gig stuff. If you're looking at producing like massive numbers of units, like, I don't know, custom plushes or like full on print books or whatever, we're talking like serious merchandising, then we need to talk about licensing. But I don't think that's what you're asking. And I really don't think that's what anybody's going to be doing. If you're doing just small stickers and prints and whatnot, yeah, giving us a nod back to us would be super cool. If they do really, really well for you and you would like to throw us a couple bucks just because, that would also be appreciated. We're not demanding it. It's just, it would just be neat. In general, you know, you can do whatever, just don't do gross stuff with Lissy. This goes back to our previous not safe for work stuff. You know, there is a demand for stuff out there. And you know what? If it makes you a couple bucks, makes you a couple bucks, but Lissy is off limits. Do not go there. Then I will get cranky. But yeah, prints, stickers, pins, whatever, artist alley stuff, go for it. And please, you know, show me. I would love to see it. I'd love to include it in like the fan art page and say, look at this cool stuff people are making at cons. You know, maybe even like, because everybody on the fan art page has a link back to their Twitter account or whatever is their best contact. So if you do, you know, small prints and stuff, let me know. I can put it up on the fan art page to say, look how cool this is, and then put a link crediting you. Maybe they can go to your Etsy page or whatever and grab it. You know?
Awesome. That's it for this edition of the BumbleKast, by the way. That's the last question. I think we're done. Wow. Yeah, we made it.
Yay!
How do you feel, Ian?
I am glad we're done. I could probably do one or two more, but no, we're done. We're wrapped up.
Okay, cool. Should we give a shout out to the patrons who make this show possible?
Please do.
I'm down with that. All right, here we go. Big thank you to Daniel H., Salute Your Cat, Joshua S., a.k.a. Valri, Robotnik Holmes, Invade Turbo Tunis, Scorch Freedom, Off, Alex M., Jonathan D., Sony, Blue Title Gamer, Koopaling Crew, Andrew D., Papa Dreepopolis, Matthew S., a.k.a. Scruffymatt, Chris A., John B., Diane W., James K., Jennifer R., Torchbound, Jennifer H., Lisa M., Godzilla, Sinmania, Chaos Universe, Sonic Legacy, Lauren W., Owen B., Preston M., Yami M., Tick Tick, Justin S., Silly String, Tukaro, Lee H.K., Overthinking Films, Don B., John M., Chauvel, Mike B., Diz Din, Samuel P., Alex P., Justin G., Dave M., Sam Cybercat, and Final Neil. Very final. Very Neil. Thank you, everybody, for supporting us. We have got a lot of new names, and we've been getting a lot of questions through KoFi lately. Thank you very much, you guys, for your support and your questions, because your questions help keep the show going, because we just answer your questions nowadays. That's all we do.
And somehow the show seems to be almost getting longer.
it doesn't seem to be, yeah. And we don't seem to be keeping it. We don't seem to be keeping it as succinct as we thought we would be. It doesn't help that we had 15 Patreon questions in 1 week, 15 priority questions in 1 week, including 2 from KoFi. So yeah, you guys keep asking your questions. But I mean, it's a lot. So bear with us as we try and sort through the dumpster fire that has become all of these question places where we accept questions from. There's a lot in there, and trying to sort through it all and make sure we answer them is like, man. So bear with us if we do like end up like not answering your question or something for a really long time. Let me know, and maybe I'll try to figure something out. But yeah, it's it's a lot.
We're not complaining, mind you. We're just explaining.
Yeah. It's just a lot. So yeah, bear with us. And thank you to patrons who have been helping out, gathering some of these questions up. Where can the people find you on the internet, Ian, after the show is over?
Find me on Twitter at IanFlynnBKC. You can find my personal website at bumbleking.com. And you can read my web series Drogoon at drogoon.com. That's DROGUNE.com, which has links to all sorts of Drogoon-related material. Kyle, what about you?
You can find me over at KyleJCRB on Twitter, where I post my very snarky comments about things. Very, very much what everybody else does on the internet these days, I suppose. You can also find me over at kngi.org, the home of Nitro Game Injection, my other show, which you can listen to streaming live on Fridays now at 8 p.m. Eastern Time if you enjoy video game music. And video game music remixes, arrangements, particularly of the fan-made variety, you definitely want to go check out that show. I play a lot of Sonic music, so if you're into Sonic and Sonic music, maybe you should tune in sometime, because, sometimes there's some Sonic stuff in there, and it's good, and you should listen to it.
You can contact the show at BumbleKast on Twitter, via email at bumblecast@yahoo.com, and you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, our YouTube channel, and on kngi.org.
Don't forget to also check out the Bumble store over at shop.spreadshirt.com/Bumble Store to get some Bumble gear and some Bumble threads for your Bumble body. Do it.
And catch us streaming games live on twitch.tv/BumbleKast Gaming. We stream Sundays at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and sporadically throughout the week, so keep your eye on at Twitter on BumbleKast to see what that schedule is.
Yes, we strum scene days.
Better than summing stream days.
Sure. I don't know what the difference is. Anyway, that's just going to do it for this edition of the BumbleKast. Unless there's something else we need to talk about, Ian. I don't think there is. I think we've pretty much covered everything we could possibly cover ever. I think we're done.
We've hit some weighty topics today. I'm content. I hope you are.
Yeah, I think this is the final episode of the BumbleKast. Until next week, at least.
Man, you gave me a heart attack, let alone anyone listening. Like, what? You said we had more questions to do. What are you talking about? You can't abandon me, Kyle. I don't know how to do this show.
Ian, you could very easily do this show. You don't need me. You just need me to tell you how to do it.
That, sir, is job security.
I appreciate it. You'd have to read the questions and answer them if I weren't here.
Exactly.
Oh, no. Or you'd have to bring out the robot to do it again. You'd have to break out Metal Ian to read the questions to the real Ian. Wouldn't that be funny? Anyway.
Ian, what is your blood type? Ian, where are your pressure points? Ian, what is the easiest way to kill you so I might usurp the show? These are all very pointed questions. Blue Title Gamer asked them all. Do not blame me.
Why are we singling out Blue Title Gamer? Blue Title Gamer did nothing wrong. All right. We're done. That's it.
We're done.
Bye.
Only singled out Blue Title Gamer because I was glancing at the chat and I saw that he was going to make a point of asking you questions because nobody else seems to. His name on my mind.
No, it's cool. It's cool. I know who the draw of the show is. It's not me. And that's fine. I will merely ride Ian's coattails to success, which I think I've said multiple times before. At least I'm honest. Yes, Red Scarf, there was in fact a Noid video game, Yo Noid, it was a reskinned game from Capcom, I believe. Actually a pretty decent game, because it wasn't originally a Noid game. So not too terrible for what it is.
And yet he still wasn't as creepy as their attempt to remake Hamburglar in the past decade.
I missed that somewhere. Should I be glad?
Yeah, it basically looked like that creepy dude from work who got the adult Hamburglar Halloween from Spirit Halloween and showed up at the office party to just go rabble, rabble to all the ladies. Except this was officially McDonald's attempt to rebrand him.
Ooh, gross.
It was like early photos of it came out. People immediately went, ugh, and it never really entered into large circulation.
Okay, good.
Sony, I think some people found him attractive, and that was the way that it was supposed to be billed, but a lot of people were going, no, ew, stop.
Yeah.
Into the trash.
Mm-hmm. You've been listening to the BumbleKast, a co-production of Bumble King Comics and the KNGI Network. Original theme music composed by Ken Coda Snyder. Remixed intro by T-Lopes. Find out more information, along with podcast feeder links, MP3 downloads, and more at bumbleking.com and kngi.org. All right, guys. Thank you for hanging out. What'd she say?
She said, "Yay, food! I'm dying."
Oh, I think she'll be fine. She's not going to die yet.
I mean, we have cats, as long as she can catch one.